Hello is WTF News, hosted by OGSB. Hello everyone, this is another WTF News on Shizzy Lit Podcast.
Yo, it's your boy OG Shizzy Brizzle. This another WTF News on Shizzy Lit Podcast. Y'all understands me. Shit, they say they got a motherfucking new robot that reproduce. Scientists say the world's first living robot that can reproduce. You know what I mean? They say it's known as the Zenbot. You know what I mean? I ain't gonna blow it up the same. I'm gonna let Allison tell y'all more about it. But this shit, I was just telling y'all, if y'all go back to the microchips joint, the microchips, when I was talking about the phone is the microchips instead of them embedding it in your body. You know, feel me? They put the microchip in your hand, which is your phone. Then I went on about the artificial intelligence and all that. Now look, like look how I just be saying shit and then you know, feel me, not too long ago after that happened and shit. Look what happened and shit. You know, your boy be putting y'all up on game early and shit. These motherfucking Zenbots. Now they done took a motherfucking embryo. Well, hold on, let me use the exact words and shit. They done took something from a motherfucking frog and shit. You know what I mean? Frogs have a way of reproducing, they say, you know what I mean? But they took the cell from the embryo and shit, you know what I mean? And seeing what it was going to do and shit once it was put in a new environment and shit. And the results was mind-boggling, they say and shit. But you feel me? I just wanted y'all to hear my voice and shit on this WTF News. I'm about to turn this shit over to A Murder, NV Allison and shit. She tried to be the host, the sole host. You feel me? And not the co-host and all that shit. She want to be the sole host. So I'm going to go and turn that shit over and let her give you the whole situation, the whole scoop. I just wanted to give y'all my summary, let y'all hear my voice, let y'all know I'm still around right now. You dig?
World's first living robots can now reproduce, scientists say by Katie Hunt. CNN updated 4:04 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday, November 29, 2021. CNN, the U.S. scientists who created the first living robots say the life forms, known as xenobots, can now reproduce, and in a way not seen in plants and animals. Formed from the stem cells of the African clawed frog, Xenopus laevis, from which it takes its name, xenobots are less than a millimeter, 0.04 inches, wide. The tiny blobs were first unveiled in 2020 after experiments showed that they could move, work together in groups and self-heal. Now the scientists that developed them at the University of Vermont, Tufts University and Harvard University's Wyss Institute for Biologically Inspired Engineering said they have discovered an entirely new form of biological reproduction different from any animal or plant known to science. I was astounded by it, said Michael Levin, a professor of biology and director of the Allen Discovery Center at Tufts University who was co-lead author of the new research. Frogs have a way of reproducing that they normally use, but when you liberate the cells from the rest of the embryo and you give them a chance to figure out how to be in a new environment, not only do they figure out a new way to move, but they also figure out apparently a new way to reproduce. View this interactive content on CNN.com. Robot or organism? Stem cells are unspecialized cells that have the ability to develop into different cell types. To make the xenobots, the researchers scraped living stem cells from frog embryos and left them to incubate. There's no manipulation of genes involved. Most people think of robots as made of metals and ceramics, but it's not so much what a robot is made from but what it is, which is act on its own on behalf of people, said Josh Bongard, a computer science professor and robotics expert at the University of Vermont and lead author of the study. In that way it's a robot, but it's also clearly an organism made from genetically unmodified frog cell. Bongard said they found that the xenobots, which were initially sphere-shaped and made from around 3,000 cells, could replicate. But it happened rarely and only in specific circumstances. The xenobots used kinetic replication, a process that is known to occur at the molecular level but has never been observed before at the scale of whole cells or organisms, Bongard said. With the help of artificial intelligence, the researchers then tested billions of body shapes to make the xenobots more effective at this type of replication. The supercomputer came up with a C-shape that resembled Pac-Man, the 1980s video game. They found it was able to find tiny stem cells in a petri dish, gather hundreds of them inside its mouth, and a few days later the bundle of cells became new xenobots. View this interactive content on CNN.com. The AI didn't program these machines in the way we usually think about writing code. It shaped and sculpted and came up with this Pac-Man shape, Bongard said. The shape is, in essence, the program. The shape influences how the xenobots behave. To amplify this incredibly surprising process, the xenobots are very early technology. Think of a 1940s computer, and don't yet have any practical applications. However, this combination of molecular biology and artificial intelligence could potentially be used in a host of tasks in the body and the environment, according to the researchers. This may include things like collecting microplastics in the oceans, inspecting root systems, and regenerative medicine. While the prospect of self-replicating biotechnology could spark concern, the researchers said that the living machines were entirely contained in a lab and easily extinguished, as they are biodegradable and regulated by ethics experts. The research was partially funded by the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, a federal agency that oversees the development of technology for military use. There are many things that are possible if we take advantage of this kind of plasticity and ability of cells to solve problems, Bongard said. The study was published in the peer-reviewed scientific journal PNAS on Monday. Jesse Union Hong Collins contributed to this report. 2021 Cable News Network, a Warner Media company. All rights reserved.
You're looking at the world's first living robots. That's right, these micro machines are in fact brand new programmable life forms that researchers believe could help clean microplastics from our oceans or even repair organs inside our bodies. So what exactly are these little things? And should we expect to see them whizzing through our bloodstreams anytime soon? Measuring less than a millimeter wide, these xenobots, as they're formally known, were created by researchers from the University of Vermont and Tufts University. Using stem cells harvested from the embryos of the African clawed frog and a sophisticated computer algorithm, they generated a blueprint design that allowed the team to then build a new form of life that has never existed before. Stem cells were first differentiated into skin and heart cells. The skin cells were chosen for their capability to bond together to form the passive architecture of the xenobot, while heart cells were selected for their ability to contract and relax, with the goal of manufacturing a type of tiny engine that would propel the xenobots. After observing the natural dynamics between the skin and heart cells, the data was fed into an evolutionary algorithm run on a supercomputer. Based on this data, the algorithm was able to generate millions of different cell configurations to test for a desired outcome, in this case, locomotion. And so began the test for survival. Only the fittest configurations advanced to the next stage, where their designs were then crafted into better digital models. After about 100 test runs, only the very best configurations were left. Thanks to the power of their evolutionary algorithm, the team finally had a winning blueprint for their new life forms. All they had to do now was create them. Sounds simple? Well, it wasn't. The team used tiny forceps and a microscope to painstakingly perform microsurgery on heart and skin cells to create their novel organisms. And voila, the researchers created their first xenobots. The biobots could propel themselves, moving in straight lines or in circles. They could work together, herding loose particles into tiny heaps. And when cut open, the xenobots healed themselves. Understanding exactly how cells do this is ultimately the goal behind this research. Cells are incredibly intelligent. There are still so many things that we don't know about how they work. Like, how do they communicate to build complex bodies, or even heal? If we could decode those signals, scientists could build smarter robots with pre-programmed tasks that would be biodegradable and biocompatible. And these little xenobots are just the first step in figuring out how to control anatomy on demand. I mean, just imagine all the applications of this type of research. If scaled up, xenobots could be used for regenerative medicine like repairing organs or growing body parts for transplant from the ground up. They could be created using a patient's own cells, then inserted into their bloodstream and programmed to clear the plaque from clogged arteries or to detect cancer. But the applications aren't just limited to the medical field. The team also envisions assigning individual tasks to a swarm of xenobots to collect microplastics from the ocean or search and collect radioactive contaminants. Now, a world full of custom, planet-saving xenobots sounds really cool, but you may have already asked yourself about the ethical implications for creating a totally new form of life. And you're not alone. The team has fully acknowledged that future iterations of xenobots could include nervous systems, blood vessels, or even reproductive parts. And it's these additions that are prompting many to wonder if xenobots should be considered more than just machines. There's also the tiny fact that the research is partially sponsored by DARPA's Lifelong Learning Machines program, which again has left some observers questioning the future direction of this research. However, the research team is open and encouraging of these ethical discussions in the public domain, in the hope that policymakers can keep up and implement the right regulations as this science progresses. Right now, the xenobots are still really basic and currently restricted in their reproductive abilities. And in terms of scalability, as we've just learned, these bots aren't exactly easy to create, requiring hours of microsurgery just to create one. The next phase of the research is to develop a xenobot capable of carrying a payload using a patient's cells to deliver medications deep within the human body without eliciting an immune response. So ultimately, these xenobots are just the first steps in trying to understand how life starts, perhaps one day providing scientists with the ability to control exactly how life forms. For more robotic topics, check out this focal point on a robotics lab that's investigating the idea of artificial consciousness. Are there other exciting innovations that you'd like to see us cover? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe to Seeker, and thanks for watching.
Is WTF News, hosted by OGSB.